Hey, it's Don the Auction Professor here. I thought I would talk just a little bit about some of the things I do for taking photographs and some of the things that I've hunted out to make my life easier taking photographs. Some of the items I use to take photographs I've actually made myself, so some items I've bought. If you take a lot of photos, one thing you should always get, and I recommend it for everybody, is a handheld remote trigger for your camera. This plugs into the side of my D5300, and I can literally click to take a picture. I don't have to sit there and reach over to the button of the camera. It's got the cord. You can get an extension. You can make them longer. If you're not using one of these, you can actually run a HDMI cable from the camera as well. And then I run Live View from Digicam Control. It's a little program. And then I can use my 17.1-inch laptops for Live View to actually view what I'm taking photos of for my eBay items or Amazon. I do a lot of paper items, and I use oddball items to do this with. This is one of the items. This is actually my I guess it's a cam stand, you'd want to call it. This actually just slips onto the table, and then you can mount your camera up here with a standardized mounts on the bottom. You can get the adapter if yours doesn't take the same one. But this one I bought off of Amazon. It's made out of solid steel pipe. This thing weighs maybe 5 pounds. It cost me about $100. I have 2 of these actually. Well worth it. I will never have to buy another one. This thing's built very strong. The only problems I had with it is I'm not real happy the plastic and the plastic knobs. It would have been nicer for metal, but other than that, this one I've seen used. We were in DC and people took these into some of the federal buildings to actually take pictures of documents and things. So I knew what this was ahead of time. I just couldn't remember the name. It took me a little while to find one, but you can find, there's one seller I know. I think they're probably made one at a time, maybe not, but it comes apart. It telescopes here, telescopes here. You can just pull this out to mount it onto your camera too, so, and then slide it in. But I use this all the time. I've got several areas that we can take photos in, built separate stand-wise. But this one takes straight down shots, and then I use some actual lighting that I personally made. I've got the boom lights like everybody has. I got a set of 3 of those. The typical ones that can light up a room. But for small items on a table, I just hate having these big booms in the way. What I have done is I've made my own lighting. These actually just sit right up on the table. I've got 2 of these I made, one for each side, just so you can see the other one. There's 2, they're identical. It's actually just made out of corrugated plastic I got at Walmart. These will sit very nicely flat on the table. I put one on either side of the item, and then the stand is here, and then my camera goes straight down on it. I'll show you when I do it one of these days, but just so you can see what I've made. These are the typical photo light bulbs, typical socket up on the top, cord, the whole works. I just wired this together, made the box. I did 2 boxes at the same time. It's lined with tin foil, and then I've got cloth, cloth like a filter fabric that goes over it, just snaps over. I used to put tissue paper before. I thought cloth on the first attempt. It doesn't have to be fancy, it just has to work. When these are on, it lights up perfectly fine for any of the items on the flat area. And again, it's straight down shooting. There's no distortion as angled photos do on paper items. You get a true example of what it is. They may, again, not look like much, but I can hang these too. I installed these little clips up on the top. It's got everything in it. I can replace the bulb unscrews. Tin foil is all I use on the inside with just some real quick spray glue. It took me like maybe 10 minutes to do each one. Literally, I just X-Acto knife. I've got a big cutting mat because I do a lot of cutting and stuff like that. But these work great for a lot of other things. The only thing I can say is if you're doing something that you need continuous light, these are not specifically continuous light. With some cameras, if you're not using continuous light and you've got to do video or something along that line, you'll have flashes in it, and that's because the frame rate is close to what the on and off rate is for the lights. If it's continuous light, that means that the lights are on 24/7. There's no flicker, flash, or interrupting or anything like that. I may not be explaining it perfectly correct, but that's the gist of it. So I always try and buy continuous light for certain items like the video lighting, and so for some of the artwork I do too, I use these lights as well too. Or I have a opaque projector that I use sometimes. But These work great. You can make them yourself. Just estimate size. This fits now with both of these on a table. Let's show you here. Kind of might look a little weird, but this is literally what we do. They'll be on a table like this. Once they're on, it does a cross phase of the lighting, so it doesn't just look like it's shining with the fabric that I put on them. Okay, here is the stand itself. We use a Nikon. It's all plugged in actually right now. So this cable actually does the live view for the camera, and it actually goes to the laptop I have up here. Let me unplug some of this. This is actually the trigger here. This is how you actually can take the photos, just a quick click, instead of actually having to reach around. This plugs into the camera as well. And then let's see here, let me take this out real quick so you can kind of see. It might be a little hard to do. Helps if I unplug it. If you're not familiar, these cameras actually come with a battery adapter, so you won't have to use batteries. And this is how literally I take out the camera. You can see it's our Nikon. It's a D5300. This is what I use for pretty much everything. It's interchangeable lenses, the whole works. With the camera, as I said, where the batteries would go, we actually have a, I don't know how well you can see it, but we actually have a battery pack plug-in. These are like 40 or 50 bucks. They come for most cameras. You can get a battery adapter for the AC DC outlet, but this is what we use, and again, this has worked for us very well. I take one everywhere. You can actually get a backup battery pack that'll go that this will plug into too. It's not designed for a camera, but anything you can plug a cord into, you can pull a battery back. So if you're doing some long shoots away from the house or something, that would be perfect for that. But you can kind of see this is what we use. Laptop sits on top. This is just to guard the lights. They're so bright, instead of blinding somebody. These are the boxes I made. Nothing fancy again, but I do have screen, like some fabric that I can put in front of these. We set stuff to be taken photos of next to it, and then they just grab from here. But having these, this is probably our best camera. We've got several of these, the same Nikon. All the lenses are interchangeable, so that's a plus two. This works great. Again, this is how we do most of the smaller items and most of the paper items with lights similar to this. And again, sometimes I use boom lighting, sometimes I don't, but those work great. Again, it's a small area you can put those in, and anybody can set them up or make them. It's just I use an X-Acto blade, and I think I have maybe, I don't know, 10 bucks into the boards and stuff to make the box, and then the lighting, and then the cords I bought, and then the socket. And it's basically a standardized socket which you can buy at the store. So go to like a hardware store and buy the parts if that's something you want to make. But for me, space, you've got to do it in a small space. Everything, those work great. They've worked great for a long time. The bulbs last for a long time. Anybody who has the booms or has the video lighting knows. Bulbs do last a long time as long as you don't slam or bump them around or knock them. Those sit in a flat area, they fold into a small square, and they're literally out of the way in just a second, so it's a great item. One of the other things that I use is a square. I've had a lot of questions on this. This is just a piece of paper I printed offline off of Google, and I taped it to a piece of cardboard so it's easier to move around and it's stiffer. Again, it's just literally a sheet of printed paper printed off my printer. What you want to look for is do a Google search of 1 inch to 1 inch actual square inch ruler template or something along that line. I don't remember the exact keywords, but something along that line. And I found one within, say, a minute or two of looking, so they're very readily available. There's many versions I looked over, and then you can create your own even if that's not the case. But check it out with a real ruler, whatever one you do print, to make sure that the 1 inch marks are actually at the 1 inch. Sometimes your printer will adjust because of the size of the original. You might have to change the margins or something along that line. But it's something that you should be easily able to do. But this is literally what I use for a lot of the zooming in when I'm doing stamps or anything like that. And again, I try to zoom in on off photos. It seems to sell them better. But I'll go over that in another video too. But thanks for watching. Hope you have some ideas with what to do for lighting and making your own if that's what you need to do. But please subscribe, like, and comment, and tell a friend. Have a good day.